Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, hi, welcome, come on in. My name is Millie and I post at least 3 times a week on a Monday, Wednesday and a Friday. Affordable, cruelty-free drugstore makeup reviews, that is what I do here, with the odd indie eyeshadow palette sprinkled in case you are wondering what is sprinkled across my eyeballs. This video will be coming quite soon and it is an indie palette and I am just loving it. But in today's video I am going to be directly comparing the 2 new foundations from Revolution. So I have already got full day wear tests for both of these, full deep dives into each of these foundations separately, but I want to put them side by side. I want to do one half of my face with one half of my face with the other, and see the similarities and also the differences, because although I've got full day wear tests for both of these, and I have of course been using them off camera and forming my opinions on them, I think that they are quite similar. But also there are a few areas where I feel like they would be more suited to different people. But I want to do a side by side. I want to really get very nitty gritty. I want to figure it out. So I'm going to do, like I say, one on one side, one on the other. We have got the Revolution SUPERFIX 16 Hour Blur Longwear Blurring Foundation. This one in the glass bottle with the pump. It also has a wand that like comes out of the bottle, you know, and then we have the Conceal and Define Soft Matte Full Coverage Foundation. So both of these have exactly the same amount of product, which is 0.78 fluid ounces, 23 millilitres. They both have exactly the same amount of product. This one, the Conceal and Define, is $7.99 and the SUPERFIX 16 Hour Blur is $9.99. Both of them come in 40 shades, so they both come in exactly the same shade range. And one thing that I did want to highlight, because not a lot of brands do this, but one thing that I did want to highlight was that the shades are interchangeable. Is that the right word? I'm not sure if that's the right word that I mean. Like, I have F3N in both of these and they are the same. So often brands will use like the same names or the same numbers or whatever and the shades aren't quite right. They're not exactly the same. These are exactly the same. So let's go ahead and do one pump on here of the SUPERFIX 16 Hour Blur, and then I will try and get around about the same amount of the Conceal and Define so that you can see the differences in the texture. I think that's around the same amount. So if I hold my hand up there, you will see the Conceal and Define is much more liquidy. It is much more of a thin, liquidy formula. It spreads out a lot more. So I'm going to use a sponge and then I'm going to use one side for one and one side for the other. But let me zoom you in so that you can actually see what I've got going on, you know? So like I say, this is the Conceal and Define and this is the SUPERFIX. I'm going to start with the SUPERFIX and I'm going to try and basically just pick up all of that product on one side of the sponge. A sponge has been my preference for blending this out, and for reference I have got dry skin and all I have on my skin currently is the Pixie, I can't remember the name of it, it's the vitamin C encapsulated creme serum, this one that's like got all of the little bubbles of product in it. So my skin is very nice and hydrated, but I do have dry skin. So this is the SUPERFIX blended out on this side and you can see it is matte, it is blurring, and I would say that that is a really decent medium to full coverage, and that was just one pump on that side of my face. So if you think like 2 pumps would get you full coverage like across your whole face. So that's the before and after. I very much enjoy the finish of this. So I'm going to take the other side of the sponge and again try and soak up all of that product onto there. disperse it somewhat equally across my face, and you will see as this blends out, the Conceal and Define, I feel like I have managed to get this to look much more glowy. So for that reason, I do feel like if you had dry skin and you wanted, I mean, I've got dry skin and I do love both, but if you had very dry skin, I think you would probably, it's more likely that you would prefer the Conceal and Define. If you had oily skin, I think you will love the SUPERFIX. I think that you will absolutely love it, especially for the longevity. I'll get into the longevity in a minute, but you can see it is, I would say, slightly less coverage, but really not by a lot. I am just going to bounce over the center of my face so that I don't have a line. But you can see it's still like a soft matte finish. It is still that, but you can see there the difference between the amount of coverage. I feel like I can see the difference there. I hope it's showing up well on camera, but it is ever so slightly glowier. I feel like you can see across the forehead there that it is ever so slightly glowier, the Conceal and Define. Very, very slight difference. A tiny little bit more coverage, but it is very much more of a thin formula and it almost spreads more. I feel like if you were wanting something that was more, like you could get more variety from it, you wanted something that could give you less coverage or be built up to be more, I think that you would probably want the Conceal and Define. A lot of the time I am completely happy with both sides. I'm not really fussy about that. A lot of the times though, I do want a little bit more coverage, and the SUPERFIX definitely gives you more coverage. So that is how it is looking, all blended out, like first impression. I am going to go in with, ooh, knocking things over. I am going to go in with a little bit of the Conceal and Define concealer. I really like this. I really have been enjoying this concealer. So I'm just going to put a little bit under the eyes. And like I say, the shade names also transfer to the shade names of the concealer. So both of the foundations I have in F3N and the concealer I have in C2N. So that's like F for the foundations and C for the concealer, but the numbers and like the letters, etc., are transferable. I don't know what word I mean. It's so hot in the UK, I can't think straight, but I am just going to use the sponge just to blend that out under my eyes. Being careful of this eyeshadow because, like I say, I'm in the middle of filming a 3 looks with video with an indie eyeshadow palette and I need to go back and finish off the eye look, you know? The concealer, I would say, is more matte than I was expecting it to be. It is, I mean, it is described on the bottle. It literally says soft matte full coverage concealer, and I would agree with that to a point. I do feel like it is more matte than what I was expecting. Like, I don't usually like to powder too much because I've got dry skin. I don't like to add a ton of powder, but I would me personally as a person, I would not powder this concealer. Again, if you had oily skin, I think that you would really enjoy this concealer, maybe with a little bit of powder over the top of it. But for dry skin, I feel like it is still hydrating enough and it is still sort of thin enough that it can be very much blended out with a sponge to get that little bit of sort of juiciness into the formula and like really spread it out very thin, and I don't feel like it feels too matte for my dry skin. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it if you perhaps had more mature skin, because I do feel like I'm 32 but I've got a very expressive face and my face obviously moves a lot and I have got fine lines and I've got stuff going on under my eyes. It's fine, I'm an expressive gal, but I do feel like I do notice it a little bit. So if you had more mature skin, I don't think I would recommend this. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish off the rest of my face, and then I will show you the completed look, and I'll give you like my final thoughts on both separately. But this is how they are looking like first applied. So this is the Conceal and Define, all blended out just with a sponge, and this is the SUPERFIX, again blended out with the same sponge. But I will go ahead and do the rest of my face, and I will be right back. Okay, so there is the rest of the face done. I did put a glowy blush on, so if you're noticing glow coming through, yes, it is 4 million degrees in my room currently, but no, I haven't got sweaty that quickly. I have a glowy blush on. So for like comparison sake here, the differences and the similarities. If you are in a hot environment, if you're in a humid environment, whether that be like your place of work or just the place that you happen to be living on the globe, if you were in a very, very hot environment, I would say that the SUPERFIX definitely holds up better in the heat. Not to say that the Conceal and Define doesn't hold up well, because with a little bit of powder this one really, really does, but the SUPERFIX without powder, just completely by itself, holds up very, very well in the heat. So if that's a consideration for you, then I would definitely go for the SUPERFIX. However, with a little bit of powder, like I say, the Conceal and Define still looks great. And I have worn both of these on different days with different primers. I would definitely say that if you had more of a actually physically glowy, not just hydrating, but an actually glowy, something like the e.l.f. Halo Glow, you know, Charlotte Tilbury, that sort of a glowy product underneath, you do still see that glow coming through from both, and I find that glow very, very pleasant underneath the SUPERFIX. I feel like with those sort of glowy products underneath, the Conceal and Define by the end of the day can look a little bit much if you haven't got a powder on. But if you're wanting more of a glow, if you're wanting more of that glowy finish, but still with something that very, very much lasts very well and sort of sets down, then maybe the Conceal and Define would be best. I'm trying to not put my own opinion in here because I do have a favourite, but I'm trying to give you the differences. For me personally, I don't like a powder on the SUPERFIX. I feel like for my dry skin it is just too much, and it doesn't necessarily add anything for me adding a powder onto the SUPERFIX. However, a nice little bit of powder on the Conceal and Define, and it definitely sets down and adds the longevity throughout the day. So I feel like I have covered all bases there in terms of like other products that both of these work with. I would say that the long and short of it is, if you've got dry skin, normal to dry skin, I would probably go for the Conceal and Define. If you've got normal to oily skin, I would probably go for the SUPERFIX. Both, I feel like both do work for both, but just the feeling that I get from the finish and the longevity and the way that it looks on my skin and the experience that I've had with both of them, I do feel like that is the main difference. And also the Conceal and Define, I feel like you can sheer it out a little bit more. So if you're wanting something that you can just have a very light, because it's so thin, you can get a very light amount on the skin and it still gives you a really great amount of coverage. However, I don't feel like you get that variety in the amount of coverage with the SUPERFIX because it is so much coverage. Even if you use a very small amount, you could use a full pump for your whole face, you're still going to get a lot of coverage and that blurred look. So there isn't the variety in the finish, and there isn't the variety in the ways that you can wear the SUPERFIX, because I feel like no matter how much you wear, you're still getting that full coverage, you're still getting that blurring, whereas you can definitely sheer out the Conceal and Define and get it to be more of a lightweight amount of coverage, more of a lightweight look on the skin with like a glowing primer or something underneath. You can definitely see a lot more of that, but you can still build it up and get it to be similar to what the SUPERFIX is. So that is my review. Out of the two, I would still say that I prefer the SUPERFIX. Even though I have got dry skin, I would still say that, and this isn't just me saying this because it's currently 40 degrees in the UK and I am sweating in places that I didn't know you could even produce sweat from. I know that is so sexy. I would definitely say that the SUPERFIX is my favourite, and it was before we were experiencing this heatwave in the UK, and I probably will still like this one more after this heatwave has gone, which is meant to be tomorrow, and honestly I can't wait. But I'm not gonna spend another video complaining about the weather, because how incredibly British of me. I would say personally that the SUPERFIX is my favourite. I don't love the wand. I'm never going to use that wand on the inside. I don't know why it's there. This makes no sense to me. This makes no sense to me. I don't understand. I'm always just going to use the pump, but I do also like. I like that the Conceal and Define is in the squeezy tube if you were travelling, if you were wanting something to take on holiday, that sort of a thing, or if you're the kind of gal that gets ready on a train and you're wanting minimal packaging, the sort of thing that's not going to break, because this is a glass bottle. The SUPERFIX is in a glass bottle, and obviously the Conceal and Define is in a plastic squeezable tube. They both absolutely have their place in society. They're both different, obviously, in the packaging department. Depending on the kind of person that you are, you may prefer to have the squeezy tube or the glass bottle. I just don't know why that wand is in there, because if you're giving me a pump, I'm going to use the pump, okay? It makes no sense, but that is my final thoughts. I would love to hear if you've tried either of these, what you think of them. I want to know all of your thoughts down below. If you're in the UK, please go and get yourself a big glass of water, because you will be dehydrated. It is hotter than the surface of the sun. But that is everything. I want to know all of your thoughts. Have you tried either? Have you tried neither? Are you not interested? Why are you here if you're not interested in either of them? I mean, maybe I have de-influenced you, and that is also valuable, and I would like to know about it. But until next time, thank you ever so much for watching. Bye bye.